First off, I would like to thank you for coming today to learn about cybersecurity. Today, it is going to be specifically addressing cybersecurity concerns in the hospitality industry. But if you're not in the hospitality industry, a lot of the principles that we'll be talking about it will help your organization be better secure. I would first like to start by thanking our sponsors for today. We have the Branson Area Lodging Association. Lori, thank you for allowing us to be able to speak to your member group today in regard to cybersecurity and how it affects the lodging industry. Second of all, I'd like to thank the Bank of Missouri today for hosting the space of our physical webinar or our physical presentation space that we had. And if you would like to learn more about secure banking, then I would recommend that you get with Taylor Clark at the Bank of Missouri out of the Branson, Missouri branch. And in our in-person live event, we had Espresso Coffee. It's a local coffee shop, drive-through coffee shop, and they provided coffee. And we just want to say thank you again to Espresso for sponsoring our live event and making that a huge success by bringing coffee to it. Next, we're going to be going over our agenda, specifically focused on several key elements. I'm going to introduce our company, VanderNet. We're going to go over recent statistics concerning cybersecurity events that we've seen happen in 2023 into 2022. We'll take a deeper dive into bigger concerns, specifically, like I mentioned earlier, hospitality and how hackers are using unique ways and very simple ways to access your network. And then we'll move into talking about the 3 myths that we hear all the time concerning cybersecurity. And then we'll follow up with 3 things that you can be doing to better secure your organization when it comes to cybersecurity to help keep hackers out from stealing your data. And then we'll talk about next steps. What are the next steps in regard to your engagement with cybersecurity and partnering with the right people? We'll do a Q&A session, asking questions from the audience, and we'll get started. So we started VanderNet in 2010, started out as an MSP, a managed service provider, and we'll briefly discuss what the differences are in regard to engagement with IT. We all have engaged with IT, and so understanding those differences and how we engage is super important. We got bored with a managed service company, IT company in 2010, and we started an internet company in 2013. And then recently, in 2021, we decided to transition to an MSSP, focusing more on cybersecurity and growing a team of cybersecurity professionals and building the best in class when it comes to cybersecurity and securing businesses. That is our core focus, and that is where we are doubling down on to better securing your business and businesses like it. What I think over the last 13 years of being in business, the thing that I've realized a lot is how much has changed in the industry in the last 13 years. And I believe that it's going to continue to change over the next 13 years. And I'm really, really excited about what's changing in technology. And it seems like there is continual need for managed cybersecurity services as we go into the future. Next, I'm going to talk specifically about myself. I married my best friend in 2009. I've been married since then. In 2010, I started VanderNet. I have 4 beautiful children ranging from the ages of 9 to 2. And when I was telling my 9-year-old about this presentation, he specifically was like, "Dad, you need to say from 2 to 9 and not 9 to 2. So I want it to be stated that I have kids ranging from 2 to 9. And I got 3 boys and I got 1 girl. And some people say that 3rd time's a charm. I would argue and say it was the 4th time that was the charm. I got the girl on the 4th, and I'm super excited. just to look back on my life and think about where I've come from to where I'm at now. God's hand has been through it the entire way in the process. And specifically in fifth grade, teachers had a hard time keeping me away from. That was like the first year. That was in in fifth grade when they introduced technology and computers, and we had like 3 computers in the classroom. The prior year in fourth grade, we only had 1 computer in the classroom, which was a Packard Bell computer. We were so excited about it. But in fifth grade, I had such a hard time staying away from the computer. I was just drawn to it, and I wanted to learn and understand it more. So that leads me to in 2002, I was obviously in 8th grade and drawn to technology. And this was in the days where internet became more mainstream other than dial-up. We just got cable internet. And I went through the process of installing keylogging and screenshot software on my best friend's computer at his house. He had his own computer and his mom had his own computer. I was very fortunate to have my own machine that I had pieced together at home, but he had his own machine, and over the next, he left the room, and then I installed that software, and over the next 2 to 3 months, I started receiving screenshots and keylogs of his information from his computer to my computer. And like I said, this was back in 2002. And when we get to a graph a little later, you'll start to understand that. But over the next 2 to 3 months, I started receiving screenshots and username and passwords. And then I started looking, like I got his older sister's Yahoo email password and was able to watch her emails over the next 2 to 3 months. I have not shared that story with anybody but my team this last Friday, but just looking back on God's hand on my life again, just in that being in 2002, and here I am in 2023, and now my entire life is committed to better protecting businesses and building a team of cybersecurity professionals. That is what we do. So the next we're going to talk about what, in terms of engagement, we all engage with IT on some level in the commercial space. And I think it's important that we understand how we engage, because a lot of times I don't believe we know how we're engaging with IT, and that there's actually different forms of IT. We call it IT when you're engaging with IT, but there's actually different engagement levels. And I think it's important to understand each engagement level and what you get with each of those engagement levels. So we're going to hop in. And the first category we're going to go over is break fix. Break fix is an hourly engagement. It's typically you as the customer, you break it, you call your IT guy, he comes and he fixes it. That is the basis of that engagement. There might be something that you want to do at your property, expanding the Wi-Fi or whatnot. Now that is, and you just call them up and say, hey, I'm having Wi-Fi problems. I need you to come out and fix it. Can we get a new Wi-Fi system? It's always customer engaged. The second category we're going to talk about is an MSP, which stands for Managed Service Provider. This is a engagement that is typically done with contracts, and you engage this provider and they provide some proactive services. They're monitoring your servers, they're monitoring your network, they're monitoring your backups to make sure that those backup jobs are completed. And there's help desk. So you pick up the phone and you call the help desk, and they're there to help you out and fix any problems that you may have. Some MSPs do patch management, which is very limited in regard to patching, Windows updates to your computers. But in regard to this prototype, it's very much focused around monitoring uptime and managing any issues or upgrades that you may have. This third category we're going to get into, which is what we've transitioned to. In 2020, we started to see a gap in the market space. And with that gap, we started to realize a shift in people working from home, and that there was this gap between security of securing what they were traditionally behind a firewall in the office to working at home with their laptops or anywhere in the United States. It seemed like everybody was moving to a remote position in regard to engaging with their business and the company that they work for. And so in 2020 to 2021, we really started looking at what would it look like to become an MSSP. And in 2021, we dove in deep and we started transitioning our business from an MSP, like we were just talking about, to an MSSP. And a managed cybersecurity service provider is committed to the security aspect of protecting your people, your data, and your infrastructure. That being your computers, your servers, your network. It's super important that we encompass all of that in protecting your company. We all work hard. We either work hard for somebody that's built a company or we own a company that we're trying to secure and protect so we can continue to build that business. And as a managed service provider, managed security service provider, we are providing these services to secure the network and your people and you engaging. We're engaging at a level that is alarming with what we call software as a service, online applications and platforms. And all of those, just because they are hosted somewhere else, it's still your responsibility. And so it's important that you understand the engagement between an MSP and an MSSP. There is this massive difference. We align with a framework called NIST. And in that framework, there's 105 individual controls that have to be in place in order to secure your data properly. And so moving in 2021 to this model, we've been doubling down, putting massive resources into becoming the absolute best in managed security services to protecting businesses. And yes, we still do IT, but it's through the lens of cybersecurity in everything that we do. Next, we're going to talk about the current threat landscape. I think it's important that today we understand historically in 2023, over the last physical year, what has happened in the industry and some notes to take through the process. So the first one is this FBI from the IBC report. If there's graphs in here that don't specify exactly what or where it's from, then you can assume that it's from the FBI annual report. And one of the things that I really specifically want to talk about today is you can see in 2002 when I was exploring computers and doing that thing to my friend, you can see like $54 million. Well, that's when things really started from the graph standpoint, from interconnected technology, because before 2002 we had dial-up, which made it a lot harder from a hacking standpoint to create issues for businesses and companies. And to be completely honest, early on, the internet was just a bunch of individuals really communicating and exploring what there was that the internet had to offer. It wasn't until we had really started to see buy-in from businesses and commercial entities until much later on. And when that happened, when there was this pivot, it is when you could start to see a ramp up. And it's very clear that cyber attacks are going way up. And you can see that based on this graph here, that we went from the 54 million in 2002 to in 2022, we went to 10.3 billion. And this is reported crime damage, monetary reported crime damage. I think it's important that we point out specifically that there is a ton of hacking events, data breaches that happen that are unreported. This is only from what we know has been reported. So the damages are more than likely significantly higher than what we're seeing in this graph, but the trend is the same. Cyber attacks are going way up. And so we have to change the way we think about securing our business, our people, and the data that we house. The next graph is talking specifically about estimated global crime cost. What you can see annually is that there's an 8 trillion US dollars that it costs businesses annually, globally. And I think $255,000 a second. It's insane that it's costing that much money that quickly. The thing to note in this slide specifically that I would like to really take note of is that the $8 trillion US dollars, if that was a global economy, that would be the third largest global economy in the in the world, not in the United States, in the world. The next thing on this slide here is specifically 39 seconds, cyber attacks happen. Just the new reality of where we're at. We have not only people that are able to hack, we have people that are able to program systems, that are able to automate and make this work much faster and quicker. So we're probably going to see a trend where the 39 seconds where cyber attacks are going down to probably every 2 seconds. It's a growing concern. The other thing on the slide here that I want to point out is the 49 days average time to detect ransomware. Typically, what we've been seeing is hackers are laying dormant between 90 to 120 days in your systems. And what they're doing is they know IT. Most of these people have experience with IT for years and years and years, and many of them have come out of the IT understanding to becoming cyber criminals and hackers because they can get a larger payout much faster than working an honest job, collecting an honest salary and a living. And what they know is typically organizations' backups are good between 90 to 120 days. So that being said, it's important that you understand. It might say 49 days here, but many of them are laying dormant to 90 to 120 days because they're getting incorporated in your backups, in your systems. So when they do deploy the ransomware, they encrypt all your data. It's unreadable. Your business cannot function when your entire systems are encrypted. What's happening is you're like, it's okay. We have backups, right? No problem. We'll restore from backups. And you do, and you recover. And you're like, man, thank goodness we have backups. Good thing we had backups in place that in this event it happened. What they don't realize is two things. One, while they were laying dormant for 90 to 120 days, they were getting in your backups, like we'd already stated, but they were uploading your data to the web, specifically to the dark web, so they can sell your data to other cyber criminals that will use that information and destroy your reputation and your business. The thing that we thought in this particular scenario is that we were good. We had backups. We were able to restore and be back in business. But a week later, the same thing happens again. And it's because they were in those backups and they were laying dormant. So when you restore, their access was restored, maybe before it was encrypted again, but then they do it again because they know if you're willing to pay out a ransom one time, they know you're probably good to pay a ransom a second time. So we move to spear phishing, and you say, what is spear phishing, Garrett? It's a great question. And spear phishing is specifically focused on looking for information about specific people inside an organization. So you could either assume that person's identity and engage the company as that person, or you understand the level of accesses that that person has within your organization or within that organization. So you can try to hack it and get in. And so 91% of crime entry points is used, spear phishing is used. The second thing here is email. Email is 92% of the ways that cyber criminals take advantage and get into your systems. And they use spear phishing to do it. Now we're going to cover the top 5 sectors targeted in 2023. Healthcare is number 1. Financial, number 2. Number 3, government. Number 4, education. And number 5, technology. And if you're in the hospitality industry, because we're specifically talking about hospitality in this conversation today. And you say, well, we're not on the list. This is what we've found. Yes, you might not be on the list. You might not be the biggest top 5 concern for a target of people targeting you. But we found that when the hospitality industry actually has a data leak, you're the second largest industry that has the largest amount of data, that when a breach happens, it's catastrophic. It's massive. There's a lot of data in the hospitality industry that once it's compromised and exfiltrated, moved out of your network, you have the second largest breach in industry to date. Now I'm going to ask you a question. Where do you think you're most vulnerable to an attack? And I'm going to give you just a couple of minutes to engage and tell me what you think, or where do you think you're most vulnerable to an attack is. Okay, you say email. I see that. You say my bank accounts are most vulnerable. I see that. Anybody else? You say your laptop, if it was stolen, that's where you'd be most vulnerable. Okay. The answer is it's us. We are the greatest risk to our own businesses and companies that we work for. It's us. And the reason why is we're the ones that are engaging with these hackers. We're the ones that is getting these emails and potentially clicking links we shouldn't be clicking. We are the most vulnerable to the cyber attack. We are the reason most all attacks happen. I jokingly say we're human. We're the ones that created the systems. We coded it all. We're the ones that created a vulnerability, potentially in a software or a program that is taken advantage of by hackers. At the end of the day, it comes down to people. And it's important that we are doing the necessary things to equip our people so they are better prepared for any event that may face their company. All right. When we talk specifically about hospitality, who has heard of the MGM cyber attack that recently happened? Raise your hand in the chat. Yeah. Several of you have heard of the recent MGM cyber attack. It's important to know the MGM obviously is a very large property, and they have many, many systems in place. But the thing that we see on our screen here is faking the support department. The MGM Grand was hacked within 10 minutes. And the reason why that happened was they used spear phishing. They went on LinkedIn. They looked for a specific person on LinkedIn that had the potential access to the systems, that if they could compromise that individual's account, they would be in the system. They took that information. They picked up the phone. They called the MGM Grand support, IT support number. They created a bunch of small talk to make it more relatable. These cyber criminals are getting better and better every day. They're not afraid to pick up the phone and call. And so that is what they did. They convinced the IT support person on the other side of the phone that their MFA was not working. They were using a company called Okta. Okta is a huge, largely known company to provide advanced level of security for your organization. And they had these systems in place. But the thing that happened was they convinced the individual that they really were this person that they had found on LinkedIn, and said some story about how they need their MFA reset so that way they can reset it back up on a new device. They convinced the support person to temporarily disable MFA. And because of that, the hackers were in within 10 minutes with a 10-minute phone conversation. They had the access that they needed to get into the system, spread laterally across all the servers. This affected guests being able to even get into their rooms. It shut down the casino. And the MGM Grand just recently this week said it's going to cost them over $100 million in damages because of this one 10-minute IT support phone call. So it's important. Cybersecurity is extremely important, and we have to take it serious. We're going to move to malware. The next few are going to be very related, very similar tactics that we're seeing in the hospitality industry specifically. The hackers call the front desk line. They get the front desk clerk and says, hey, I was trying to book online. For whatever reason, I don't feel like it didn't look like it went through. I've got a confirmation number, and I didn't know if you could look it up in your system. So, front desk, doing what the front desk does, trying to take care of guests. They type in the first name, last name, confirmation number, the hacker's giving it to them over the phone. Nope, can't see it. I don't have a reservation in our system under that name, and can't find the confirmation number. Okay, hacker says, do you have an email by chance that I could email you over this confirmation information, this email that I got from you all, and maybe you could look at it and better tell me, look it up. Front desk person complies, gives them the front desk email. Hacker sends over this email to the front desk. Meanwhile, it's important that the hacker is on the phone the entire time, making sure that the front desk reception clerk gets the email, clicks on the PDF attached to the email. Malware is installed immediately in the system. So the front desk agent, unaware of what's going on, thinks they're helping a guest, which they should be. And the next thing you know, malware is installed in the front desk computer and is spreading. The thing I can tell you that I know with my history in IT is that front desk computers at hotels do not have the adequate protections in place against this type of attack. And it is extremely vulnerable to that. So, malware spreads across, game over. Secondly, group reservation inquiry. We're seeing an uptick in this. We're seeing hackers calling the group sales department and say, hey, I got an event. We're looking to throw out your property. We're surveying properties in the area to see if they're able to host this event we have. I'd like to email you over our requirements for you guys to look at and check out to see if that's something that you guys can do for us. They get an email account, they email it over, boom, infected. It's what's crazy about the situation is they will do it over and over and over again, potentially to the same property, and get a different salesperson to click on it. So they get more accesses and more accesses. So the next thing you know, they have complete access to your entire hospitality system. The third category is failed to get nightly upload. These people are using spear phishing. These hackers are using spear phishing, getting necessary information. Say you're part of a major brand. I'm not going to say a specific brand out there, but say you're part of a major brand. They're looking on LinkedIn for a VP of accounting or a regional VP or somebody in some level of the corporate structure that would be receiving a nightly night audit report. So they know that night audit happens between 12:30 a.m. and 1 a.m. What they do is they wait until that typical time that night audit would perform their nightly functions. They call the front desk and say, hey, this is so-and-so from corporate hotel brand, and I noticed that you submitted your night audit reports, but for whatever reason, our system, we did not get them. So I'm going to email you over a link to click in. You'll use your login credentials for the hotel brand to click on it and log in, and I need you to export those reports and upload them to this platform. Front desk says, well, this hasn't happened before, but I do a quick LinkedIn search for name, title. Yeah, that person's definitely with that hotel brand, my hotel brand, and they look like they would be in the finance department to receive that type of information. So they get an email from this person on a very similar domain name, by the way. They click it, opens up the portal, looks super similar to the portal that they're used to logging in on. They type in their username and password to log in. It says, username and password is incorrect. What? What do you mean it's incorrect? I know my username and password. So I either type the same username and password again and hit submit, and it goes through. Or I type a different password that I'm like, okay, well, that password didn't work. I'm going to try a second password. And then you type the second password instead of your first password. Boop, it'll let you in. What you did not know is it didn't matter what username and password that you put in. It was going to let you in. The hackers intentionally made the first try fail because they know that you are likely to enter a second password that you may use, a variant, or you'll reconfirm the first password that you put in to try again. So it didn't matter what you were going to put in there, it let you in. Then you're able to take those nice reports that you exported from the system and upload for this said individual from the corporate hotel brand. What you don't realize, and would be a great scenario for somebody that does have adequate things in place on the back office computers, but they're engaging outside of the back office computers at this point in time. They're accessing a website outside the back office computer. We all have property management systems, and we've seen a massive growing trend to property management systems going to cloud-based. For ease of access, if you're a manager, you can go home, log into your property management system, see what the room roster looks like, how many people are in-house and leaving, and do you have adequate staff, human capital management? Do you need to let people leave early, or how are your revenue trends looking? All of that's accessible from your home network, because many of you access your property management system from your home network. So let's go back to the situation where you typed in a username and password and it let it through. Well, now they have that. And now they can log in on their system, wherever they are, and access your property management system. So what we're seeing them do is they get access to the property management system. They are then calling future reservations. And they're saying, hey, Joe Smith, we see this is so-and-so from X property, which they know the property. They have the guest's first name. They have the guest's last name. They have the guest's confirmation number. They have the guest home address. They have the reservation dates. They got all the information to really prove and build trust with the guest, the hotel guest that they're calling. So then say, hey, we just wanted to let you know that your credit card on file didn't actually work. And we need to get that resecured. It's ending in, because they have the last 4 digits as well of the card number on file in the system. Yeah, it looks like you used the card ending in XXXX. Oh, yeah, let me grab that for you, and I'll give that to you. You comply, they let you keep your reservation. You don't comply, they have the power to cancel your reservation. So the next thing you know, the reservation that you thought you had is now officially canceled by means of the property management system, because the hackers have access to it. So it's important that through these scenarios, we're seeing this, and it's a growing problem. So it's important that you take cybersecurity seriously, because if you don't, they do. And they will take advantage of any way that they can to get the money. The reality is, if they get access to the property management system, and depending upon what level of access they get, they could technically log in and change your bank account routing information. So instead of just going to doing the guest thing, but if they get access to the level that they need, then they can reroute the bank account funds for your nightly deposits from your corporate brand right into their bank account and not into your bank account. So the next thing that we're going to discuss is physically walking in. I think it's important that this is a very common thing that when you come to the front desk, you can just say you're from IT and that you're there to do something. And we're typically allowed to just continue through and do what we were supposed to do. Hackers are using this access. They're taking advantage of this type of access. They're coming in, acting confident, maybe even have a logo and look legit and say they're there to work on something. We all know that we have service people show up to our properties that we have not seen before. But as long as they look the part and they look like they're there to do what they're doing, we allow them to continue to go through. What happens here is if I've never been to your property before, but I'm confident and I have a polo that says I do what I do, then I might even ask you, hey, I haven't been here before. Can you show me where your main network room is? So now we're getting engagement from the property to show us exactly the network room that we are supposed to work in. Once the hacker gets access to the network room, they're able to install a microcomputer right into the network, confirm they have remote access to it before leaving, and leave it there. If they're smart, they'll wait till camera footages have long since left the recordings, and they will then start to access your network, installing malware, using vulnerabilities that they know are in the system, or trying to capture network traffic or passwords to your property management system. So they have direct access from a remote location, undisclosed, and untrackable. The second thing on physically walking in, we're seeing a trend of is they'll even call ahead. They'll call ahead and say, hey, this is Amber from Safeco Technologies, and we're having Billy come over this afternoon and to work on that phone problem on your phone system that you're having. Oh, okay, great. So what we're seeing is they'll call earlier in an early shift. Then the shift transition will happen, and Amber will tell, or not Amber, the front desk clerk that was working in the morning will tell the afternoon clerk, hey, just want to let you know, Billy from Safeco, our phone company that takes care of our phone system, is going to come over this afternoon and fix something. Oh, okay. Well, I'll be looking for him. So Billy shows up. So now there's an actual level, another level of trust, because the afternoon clerk heard it from the first clerk. And so there's no question where the first clerk maybe kind of was curious about it, didn't really know. The second clerk heard it from his coworker. So there's more validation that Billy's supposed to be there. So Billy shows up, immediately has access and can go wherever he needs to go. So saying all this, we're going to go over 3 myths and give you 3 ways then to better protect your business. Myth number 1, I have nothing worth stealing. I think it's important to note that we all store stuff on our computers that probably is worth stealing. But for the nature of this story that we're telling today, we're going to assume you have nothing on your computer that's worth stealing. But what's important to understand is that we all use our computers to interface with banking, websites, purchasing websites, guest reservation systems, cloud websites. We all have credentials that, if they were stolen and compromised, would lead to greater accesses to other things. You can be used. You, front desk clerk or operations manager, could be used in a bigger scheme to compromise your email account and then try to work up to compromise a regional account, and then a VP of the enterprise. So you could be the gateway to a much bigger compromise, but they had to have the initial accesses to assume as a trusted person inside the organization to then work upstream. So we all have stuff we're stealing. Secondly, I'm too small. The reality is you're not too small. And because they can use you to access other people, or they can use you to create problems for your future guests, we all have to take cybersecurity serious, because they don't care. They're after the money. And it doesn't matter if it's a small amount of money here that will lead to a greater payout later. They don't care. We're all susceptible, and it will be catastrophic on our business if we were to have a cyber attack. Thirdly, my IT guy handles that. We hear this all the time when we talk about cybersecurity with an organization. Oh, I use so-and-so, and my IT guy or IT company handles that. And I think that we all need to understand. We went over and described our engagement levels with IT, and that there's different engagement levels. When we transitioned from an MSP to an MSSP, we had to go back to our customers and have difficult conversations. And those difficult conversations were difficult because the thing that we learned the most through the process is that our customers were thinking we were doing more for them than we really were. And that's difficult. So our encouragement to you is to fully understand, what are your terms of engagement with your current IT guy or your IT company? Where are they at on the spectrum of providing services for your organization? Because what we found out when we transitioned to an MSSP was that there was a lot more expected of us than we were under the understanding of. And so we had to have those real conversations, those difficult conversations. So if your IT company or IT guy, hopefully they're engaging you in regard to cybersecurity. But if they're not, you need to be engaging them about cybersecurity and how they can better protect your organization. At VanderNet, that is what we do. That is what the MSSP model is all about, is better protecting you and your organization, yet allowing you to continue to operate your business the way you need to be operating it for growth and future potential. But you won't have that if you don't have these real conversations. And we've got to have conversations. We have to understand at what level of engagement is our IT currently providing for us. So now we're going to talk about 3 ways to better secure your business. Number 1, validate. Have a vendor list. Out of these scenarios that we have just discussed and talked about, this is absolutely paramount, that we have a vendor list in our organization. The example vendor list on this screen, you'll see as an Excel spreadsheet and document. It's important to note that this is an Excel document. We want you to print this out. We want you to make it and print it out. Have a hard copy, because the last thing you want is a hacker getting on your computer, modifying your Excel spreadsheet of your vendor list. They've added themselves to your vendor list, and then now they're calling your front desk, and it's valid. They're on the list. So print it out. It's important that you provide the provider name, the service they provide, the key contact for your account, and the phone number associated to that individual. So when Amber from Safeco IT calls you and says, Billy's going to be over this afternoon, okay, well then you're going to say, okay, Amber, and you're going to hang up the phone. You're going to pick back up the phone, and you're going to call Safeco IT Solutions, and here's my contact, and here's the phone number I'm going to call, and I'm going to validate. I'm going to say, John, hey, we got a call from Amber. I just want to make sure that you guys are really coming over this afternoon, and that is the case. Yeah, we're coming over. If not, that's a problem. If they don't exist on the list, that's a problem. We need to make sure that we are keeping an accurate list of the front desk of any business or organization, and always validating they are who they are supposed to be. A vendor list is paramount, and it needs to be in place. Secondly, educate your team. Educate your team. I can't say that enough. Meet with your team regularly and educate your team. It's important that you tell them stories. It's important that whatever industry you are in, it's important that you're doing research. You're getting on, you're Googling, you're figuring out the ways that your industry is being hacked. You're reading those stories, and then you are now engaging those stories with your team. You're telling your stories to these team members so they can better understand what to be on the lookout for. We tell our team, if you see something, you need to say something. So if something doesn't look normal, it might not be normal, and you need to say something about it. If you see something, say something. The other thing that we love to do is also tell our team, I would much rather say something and be wrong than to not say something and be really, really wrong. So it's important that if anything looks out of the normal, that they do something about it. Pre-deciding, predetermined outcomes. So sit with your team, discuss, and say, hey, let's think about all these scenarios that we could be taken advantage of or hacked. And then how are we going to respond to those specific scenarios? It's extremely important that we predetermine how we're going to respond to said event. So get those scenarios, write them all out, and then work as a team to come up with how you're going to respond to each one of those scenarios. Be prepared. And lastly, repeat. Always repeat. It says on average that it takes 22 times for somebody to hear the same message before they start listening. So it's important that this is a frequent cycle of things happening over and over and over. It should be predictable. They should know that you're able to talk about these stories and that you have predetermined outcomes and you're on repeat. Third, MFA, multi-factor authentication. I think it's important that these are all important. No one specifically over the other. They should all be cared about and implemented accordingly. But multi-factor authentication is absolutely a must. And when we talk about multi-factor authentication, we're going to talk specifically on this next screen here, what multi-factor authentication looks like, and that there's 6-digit codes that change out every 30 seconds. And so you would traditionally have your username, your password, and then your multi-factor authentication code would be that 6-digit code that you see on your screen right now. That is rotating every 30 seconds. So it's important. This provides the additional layer of security that helps secure your business. So when we talk about multi-factor authentication, you need to be making a list of all of the online websites you log into. Go back to the list. Make a list of every single thing that your company uses website-wise, and make sure that MFA is enabled on every single platform that will enable it to be enabled on. All your team members, not just you, all your team members should be doing this. You scan the QR code. When you go to profile and set up MFA, you'll scan the QR code with your app, and you can do that by downloading the Microsoft Authenticator app. It's free in the Apple Store or Play Store. You click the 3 dots on the right-hand side, and then it'll say add an account. It'll open up your camera. You scan the QR code. It will generate a first-time 6-digit code. You put that 6-digit code in the field, and you click OK. Effectively, it's been set up now on your account. So the next time you log in, you'll use your username, as you would expect, and then you will use your password, and then it'll ask for the 6-digit code. So you open up this Authenticator app, and then you see the 6-digit code, you put it in, and it'll let you log in. Every single one of your online applications that have this feature, it needs to be enabled. When it comes to cybersecurity insurance, it is an absolute must in order to have this in place, in order for them to accurately insure you for that. There are many other things that they require, but this is an absolute must. Questions. Now I'm going to take time to answer the questions that you guys may have. So feel free to put them in the chat, and I will be happy to answer them. One of the questions that we're getting, that I see, is there a way to test my people? And yes, absolutely. You can test your people with fake phishing emails, and it's called phishing campaigns. And we highly encourage phishing campaigns for your organization to constantly be educating your people on suspicious links and what they look for in your email so they can avoid clicking them or attachments. There are safe applications that enable you to do this for your team. So then that way you know who you need to have those conversations with. Another question that I'm seeing here is, what if I've been engaging with my IT guy for years and years and years, and he doesn't seem to be up on IT or on cybersecurity specifically? And my conversation would be, have a conversation with them. Be honest. It's your client's information that you're protecting. So it's your responsibility to have that difficult conversation with him. But secondly, out of that is, you probably need to look for a strategic partner that can provide those specific services that VanderNet provides. The other thing that I see out of that question, a second question, is a company that has a full IT department. How does that work? And that is a really good question, because at VanderNet, we understand that people are really good at what they do. And if you have an IT department in your company or organization, hey, we want to come in and complement that. So I think it's important that we understand, like, we don't have to engage on an IT basis. If you have an established full-time IT department, we understand that cybersecurity professionals is a specialty service that your current full-time IT staff might not have. And so what we want to do in that particular instance, that's a great question, by the way. What we want to do in that particular instance is we want to come alongside them. We want to become teammates with them. We want to help them still do what they're doing for you on a daily basis in your organization. We want to complement that. And we want to enwrap your entire organization with the cybersecurity protections in place to secure your people, your data, your infrastructure. So we'll work closely with them and implement our framework over that. And that's called a co-managed situation. And we love IT departments because they have a very hard job and they get very little credit, we feel like sometimes, but they do an amazing job for organizations. And without them, the organization would see it's just hands down, like, that's just the way it works. So we're here to come in and complement them. All right, what's next? Your business is valuable. Protect it. Rethink secured. At VanderNet, we're committed to rethinking secured, and we want you to be rethinking secured. Always be rethinking secured. What's got you to today is not going to get you to tomorrow. So it's important that in the cybersecurity space, that is constantly a thought of, how do I better secure my company tomorrow? Because people are getting more creative, and with modern technology and artificial intelligence, I'll just say it, it's easier and easier for people to be hacked. So it's important that you're always thinking and rethinking. You understand your business is valuable, that you need to protect it, and you need to always be thinking, rethinking, what does secured look like? All right, so at VanderNet, our mission is to end cyber risk. And you say, wow, that's a really bold statement, Garrett. Yes, it is. And we have a continual press towards becoming better and better. We're constantly rethinking secure, just like I just said. And our mission is to end cyber risk. And at VanderNet, we're committed to providing better value, faster outcomes, and stronger protections. So it's important that you partner with us, or a firm very similar to us, we'd prefer us, that has efficient processes, and we are committed. Our promise is to providing top tier cybersecurity protection and compliance solutions for your organization. So you say, what's next, Garrett? Well, make a plan. You need to make a plan. What I'm going to read you is out of a recent cybersecurity book that I was just reading. And it's important that we all understand how important it is to make a plan. Here it is. All this may seem heretical in the modern age, where we are torn from one meeting to the next, and information comes in 30-second segments. When your business is facing a breach or inquiries from regulators, all these other distractions will seem trivial. Make sure you're armed with as much knowledge as possible so you can make the best decision possible. Best case scenario, you're armed with knowledge you will thankfully never use. Worst case scenario, you're facing the storm. A very expensive and difficult storm without a compass. So it's important that we take it serious now and do it when it's easier right now, before an incident or a situation. Take action now and plan for it. Otherwise, you'll be forced to in the middle of crisis. And that's nowhere anyone wants to be. So my hope is to call you to action, to take time to plan for it. And we would love to help you do that. At VanderNet, like I said, we are committed to rethinking secured, and we would love to have a conversation with you on what that looks like for your company and how to continue securing your revenues, your profit, to keep you in business and to keep you growing. And so we have a phone number on the screen and we have a contact email, but you can also scan this QR code and it'll take you right to rethinksecure.com, our website, and right there on the homepage, you can fill out the form and we can engage you and schedule a time to do a 15-minute conversation to continue the conversation of what cybersecurity looks like for your organization and to see if we're going to be a good fit for you and if we can help your business. I know we can help your business to better secure your people, your data, and your infrastructure. I just want to say thank you. Closing remarks. Thank you for taking the time today to be a part of this webinar. I know that all of our time is valuable, and for you to take the time to come into this webinar shows that you care. You care to learn more. You care about cybersecurity, hopefully, and that you're going to feel motivated today to do something about it. We do not want your business to be taken advantage of, and we are here to help. Thank you so much, and we'll catch you on the next webinar.